Mish. 10 Major League Baseball games on the docket here tonight, coming off of what was a interesting Major League Baseball weekend. Of course, this will be week one of the preseason coming up on Thursday night. We'll have a full slate of NFL action as it's getting to be fun now as we can feel that football is just around the corner. College football as well. You name it, we've got it here. But Craig, I got to tell you, I'm pretty excited about some of the games coming up here tonight to start the week off in Major League Baseball. Not to mention, I think some very interesting games coming up a little bit later this week as well.
Great to be back with you, Joe, here. And yeah, we're officially at the point where teams are chasing for the playoffs. We got the trade deadline in the rearview mirror. Big stories this weekend in baseball. The Dodgers looking pretty mortal since you and I last talked. They did get a win, but losing a bunch in a row. Certainly other teams are falling out, like Cleveland in the American League Central. Teams are jumping back in, like the Detroit Tigers all of a sudden, one of the hottest teams in the American League too. So it just goes to show you that whoever does get hot at the end, make that big run potentially to the postseason. So we still got, some time to go as well. And then naturally following injury stories, of course, is part of it. But you're right, some big series going on this week, of course, and I'll be paying attention, of course, to the National League because following Miami's, ups and downs and more ups this weekend, still in that wild card chase that has me in the forefront of things too. So it'll be a lot of fun, but, naturally, I think fair to say tonight's big attention getter game, I don't know if it'll be a good game or not, it will be the last game that you see there on the board, Joe, and that is the Dodgers facing off against the Royals because Tariq Skubal will make his Dodger Blue debut at Chavez Ravine. And so Noah Cameron actually pretty good, I thought, recently. But, no doubt Skubal's going to want to have a big game. This will be his first Dodgers start in L.A. tonight.
Yes, it will. And just like that, though, you mentioned it, the National League West has become a very big focus of attention here. After just a month ago, it was like, yeah, okay, so the Dodgers win. What else? Well, I mean, the Dodgers are now 4 games worse than the Milwaukee Brewers for the best record in Major League Baseball. You got the Braves, who had an interesting series against the Yankees in the Bronx over the weekend, but they're a game ahead of the Dodgers. And, crazy enough, it has not been the pitching, Craig, that has been the issues for the Dodgers. It's the hitting. And, we did think that this was certainly a roster from an offensive standpoint that might have been a little too top heavy there. But it's starting to play out here a little bit. I mean, an extra inning win against Arizona is not what I would consider, they figured it out, it'll all be okay. I mean, they have some problems, but I think it's all on the offensive side here.
As of right now, it would appear that, but it's just a slump probably for LA. In the clubhouse, they're saying there's nothing wrong, and eventually things will pick up, and I'm guessing they're right. But, the interesting part of this is that the Milwaukee Brewers just really can't be beat. It feels like they're such a tough team to beat right now that they may end up just taking that number 1 seed. And as you can see there, the Red Sox certainly had a great week. Tampa Bay, I think they kind of put the end to the Mariners, I thought, Joe, over the weekend, sweeping them in Seattle. Seattle honoring their best players of all time and getting swept in the process. Yep. Wow, I didn't see that coming. Certainly San Diego playing well too. I still think the Dodgers will have no problem winning the division. The landscape has certainly changed a little bit, and Arizona does get Colorado this week for a few games, so they could make a little bit of a charge. But, naturally, I think every team goes through it. Dodgers just happen to be going through it right now.
Yeah, and look, Skubal, I am sure. Now, the interesting part, too, is that it's not like Skubal's going up against a National League team here. He's going up against an American League team that knows very much what he is all about here. And you're right about Noah Cameron. His last 4 starts have been extremely well, at least last 3 anyway. Picked up the win against the Twins on Wednesday last week. 1 run. Season high 9 strikeouts over 8 innings. They had a lot of high hopes for him this year, but he's a lefty, and if it's one thing the Dodgers have had an issue with, it's hitting left-handed pitching here for some reason. But feels like runs might be a little bit harder to come by, at least until, and you and I both know this, Craig, at least until the bullpen of Kansas City gets involved. And then I think all bets are off. Is that fair?
Right. The Royals just, can't get out of their own way once they get late into the game. So that's certainly a fair point there. And look, the Dodgers are a monster favorite tonight. I mean, anytime you're looking at a game where they're at home and they've got a guy like Skubal on the mound, it's kind of hard to go the other way. And the Royals have really not given us a lot to cheer about all season long. So I certainly would not expect that, plus what I can't even see that. Is it 370 or 270 there on my board?
270. 270.
270.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's actually not as big as some of their lines have been. But either way, yeah. I mean, there's going to be better games to watch tonight, but it'll be fun to see Skubal pitch in that first inning in LA and make his debut.
Yep. And listen, I know who else is going to be very interested here are the Brewers you mentioned and the Padres set to have a big series at Petco here tonight. Padres had the game last night, Sunday Night Baseball. They handled business there against the Astros. The Brewers, they just love winning these games, 4-2 extra innings. The bullpen is wiped. Make no mistake about that. The bullpen arms, all their high leverage guys unavailable here tonight for this one. But Logan Henderson and a second chance for Casey Mize to make a splash with it didn't go good against Arizona his first go around, but something tells me in that Petco ballpark he's going to be just fine here tonight.
I would think so. And I know Mize, as you mentioned, really got lit up. So he's going to have a little extra motivation to show that, hey, look, you got me for a reason. So I would expect him, of course, to bounce back. And he's been a good pitcher. He was a good pitcher with Detroit throughout the season. But it's funny that the Tigers seemingly playing better without Mize and Skubal right now. It's hard to believe that could potentially be the case, but they are. They've had some really good pitching performances, too. And look, Cleveland's not playing well. Maybe this is time for Detroit to sort of jump into the mix. The White Sox have continued their great play, so naturally they're a heavy favorite at this moment to win the Central, and provided that Murakami keeps hitting and Montgomery and some of those other players that they have, I would expect the White Sox to be there at the end of the season. But at least for now, consider Detroit back in the race after making the trade of Tariq Skubal, which is kind of crazy. And again, you can see their odds. Look at where that was a week ago. That's gross.
Crazy.
It was like 15-1.
Yep.
Now it's plus 3.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's just absolutely gross to say the least here. Also gross, Mr. Your boy Freddie Peralta on the mound here tonight. It has been ugly. Doesn't matter what uniform he's wearing, Craig. It's been ugly, but he'll have an opportunity here tonight against the Athletics. Now the Athletics just played Boston, did they not?
Yes.
So they got to fly back to Sacramento, and they're hosting a Tampa team that was in that just swept Seattle, I believe. They are already on the West Coast. So certainly advantage Rays, but you wouldn't tell it by necessary. I don't see a 260, 270 minus 280 price for Tampa here.
Yeah, so, look, we talked about this last week, and I couldn't have hammered the point home more. That if you remember last week, I said I thought at the end of the season the A's would make some changes. Well, that lasted 24 hours. They fired their GM, Joe, on Saturday, David Forst, who had been with the organization for a long time. They said it was a mutual parting, but there are some stories that had percolated that said that Forst had no intention of ever even going to Las Vegas with the team when they ended up moving. He wanted to stay in Northern California. I had never heard that one before. It sounds like to me when you're going to get fired, that's what you say. But I digress. Yep. A's have fired their pitching coach. They fired their general manager. I unfortunately believe Marcotte is probably on the big-time hot seat right now because, Joe, they made maybe some bad signings with Severino and some extensions with Butler and some other things. Joe, bottom line, you can't be a major league franchise, go into a new stadium after losing 100 games. Can't happen. They got to be better next year.
And it looks like it's happening. Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
For me, Ohtani is the MVP, even if he pitches 15 games a year and that's it. The guy's the best hitter in baseball, or one of them, and pitches, even if it's 15 games a year and he's great, sign me up. I think he still wins, but I think I like the other investments there.
Yeah, I would say we're in total agreement on this. Ohtani's going to win the award, but that doesn't mean that A, he's a good investment at this point, and B, another player isn't a good investment.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You know, the dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, you know, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Just can't win the big game. He can't get us in the big game. Well, we got to let him go now because we're tired. We'll keep the quarterback. So, you know what I've been saying? Okay, you kept the quarterback. Guess what? Mr. Lamar Jackson, it's on you now.
Hey,
It's on you.
Absolutely.
Right? It's on Lamar.
It is. It is totally on him now and the new coaching staff there.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. Has plenty of Major League Baseball coming up here tonight. 10 games on the card. And yes, got some really good matchups coming your way. Just after the top of next hour, in fact, we'll kick it off in Toronto with Boston and the Blue Jays. And interestingly enough, the postseason schedule got released earlier today. And yeah, I wasn't sure if we were going to be seeing baseball in November.
We will not.
Like we will not. Yes, exactly. The good news is we will not here. Bottom line, one way or the other, it looks like even if we get 7 games in the World Series, it's coming to an end one way or the other. Game 7, October 31st, and wouldn't that be something? Halloween might be the last baseball game we see for a little while there. Craig, not saying that's what's going to happen. I believe it's kumbaya and puppy dogs and rainbows, and it's all going to work out. But kind of creepy that October 31st could be the last baseball game we get on Halloween here, at least for the foreseeable future. But yeah, it's a little... didn't you feel like they were kind of pushing the envelope a little bit with baseball and when it ended? You know, I'm all for Mr. October, but can we make it early October is my question, Craig.
Yeah. Chris, look up the date of the final game of the World Series last year. I think it was the 2nd, November 2nd or November 3rd.
Was November 2nd, yes.
I'm not sure. It was one of those, but it didn't matter because it was Toronto and LA. So it really didn't make any difference if it went 7. And then they got kind of lucky. November 1st. Okay, so yeah. So what you're seeing now is a little bit of a pullback. And, you know, the odds of a 7-game series, Joe, are slim. You know, when you get those, it's awesome and it's great and historical. Miracle for it to even go 7 games last year based on some of the stuff we saw. So I don't think it'll come down to that, Joe. But look, I guess you never do know. And, you know, certainly at that point, the lockout will be, you know, at the front of everybody's discussion. You know, at that point, it'll be World Series. Is this the last game for a while? I certainly hope not. But then we move into basically a month of an off season, and that's it. And then probably, you know, no talk about baseball, at least for a period of time. It's not what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for some sort of resolution. And it's been kind of quiet lately, too. Not a lot of passing back and forth, any proposals from the league and from the Players Association. But I have a feeling that'll change soon, too.
Yeah, I have a feeling it's all going to come together. But NBC will be carrying playoff baseball for the first time since 2000. Kind of crazy. It's NBC growing up. I remember NBC being all about Major League Baseball, but they are back. And it's about that time, I guess, now as we're, getting ready to approach, 2 weeks into August, start comparing. Craig, I've been looking into teams with the schedule that is remaining that goes, uh-oh, or whether or not it could be very favorable for them. And it's about, 6 weeks out? So now is the time to try to look out and go, I mean, each team's got about, 6 series left? Is that about 5 or 6 there, Craig, at this point?
It feels like that, yeah. It feels like that's where we are. I don't know. I don't have the numbers. Do you have that? Do you? I'd have to look it up.
For instance, I'll give you the Yankees. Of course I will. Mariners,
Sure.
Blue Jays, Orioles, Blue Jays, Astros, Red Sox.
Gotcha.
So 6, it looks like. So, yeah, so basically August 11th through the end of August. So about 6 series here remaining. And that last series, of course, is at home against the Red Sox there before we turn the calendar into September. And then it won't be much longer after that.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
So,
and, I think if you look at the schedule, too, for baseball, the way that the last weekend pans out is they did put a lot of division rivalries up against each other that last weekend.
Yes.
So it could be a huge factor for the final week of the season, maybe for some and maybe for not all. But it's just been very up and down. A week ago, I was looking at the Cincinnati Reds and thinking, are they getting back in this thing? They're winning a lot. They get swept over the weekend. I was thinking, Seattle, now they're doing okay. They get swept over the weekend, so they're out of it. St. Louis, I think you and I talked about this. They're dead. Wait, no, they're not. All of a sudden, they win a bunch, and now they're in good shape. The other team, Pittsburgh Pirates. Let's take a look at them for a minute. Pittsburgh, they're on top of the world. They got the pitching. They got the hitting. I don't think there's been a worse team in that wild card chase. In fact, the Pirates right now have the same odds as the Nationals to go to the playoffs. How about that? What happened to Pittsburgh there? So, as you can see, stock up, stock down, and we're far from done with this. But I will say, Joe, that I'll see the Pirates here Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in Miami as they play the Marlins, Joe. But if the Marlins are going to, I don't know that they're going to sweep the series. Pirates are, a decent team. But I would say this is the series of the year, maybe not for Miami, but for Pittsburgh. I think if Pittsburgh loses another series here, Joe, they got to start looking toward next year. And I got to tell you, that's another team that's going to have a lot of interesting discussions in the offseason. I mean, when was the last time this team had any playoff baseball,
That's correct. And I'm, looking at some of the, it's been a hot minute there, that is for sure. And I'm looking at some of these teams down the stretch. The American League West and the American League Central outside of Seattle, because Seattle's down the stretch schedule is brutal. But the Texas Rangers, the Houston Astros, I mean, the remaining games are all against teams well under 500. The strength of schedule that they're going to have, I feel terrible. I'm looking at Seattle. Seattle's got, everyone with a win. Yankees, Astros, Brewers, Cubs, Phillies. Like, Seattle has got a gauntlet coming up. And then you go to look at what the, teams like the Guardians or the Rangers, in fact, who have the Angels, the Athletics, the Angels twice. And their hardest series is going to be against the Brewers at the end of the month. So there is no reason to me why a team like the Texas Rangers or Houston, who also has a ridiculously easy schedule moving it down here, somebody's got to make a move over the next 2 weeks in the American League West. Do they not? Somebody's got to win it this month. I
think so, but what I'm seeing for the first time all season is no protection from the odds makers on Seattle. I think the odds makers are giving up on Seattle. I think they're letting them go. Because this is the first time all year they're now like severe underdogs to win the division, and in their games coming up too, they're dogs. I think you just have to look at Seattle and just say they're not good. Like, that's it. Like if they couldn't get it going in their own park with Ken Griffey Jr. and Randy Johnson coming out and Ichiro and all these, and they get swept at home, oof. Bad.
Big series coming up this week. In fact, Houston and Seattle.
For me, Ohtani is the MVP, even if he pitches 15 games a year and that's it. The guy's the best hitter in baseball, or one of them, and pitches, even if it's 15 games a year and he's great, sign me up. I think he still wins, but I think I like the other investments there.
Yeah, I would say we're in total agreement on this. Ohtani's going to win the award, but that doesn't mean that A, he's a good investment at this point, and B, another player isn't a good investment.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
What Michigan have to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You know, the dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, you know, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Just can't win the big game. He can't get us in the big game. Well, we got to let him go now because we're tired. We'll keep the quarterback. So, you know what I've been saying? Okay, you kept the quarterback. Guess what? Mr. Lamar Jackson, it's on you now.
Hey,
It's on you.
Absolutely.
Right? It's on Lamar.
It is. It is totally on him now and the new coaching staff there.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish, as we are just about 45 minutes away from the opening pitch to kick off the slate of action here tonight. Boston and Toronto will be up first. You know, and for the life of me, Craig, over the weekend, and I could not remember what his name was, but you were on the show last week, and you told me about a New York Mets pitcher, like a 30-year-old rookie of some sort that was coming up to pitch, and I couldn't remember his name, and I think he actually pitched this weekend. What was his name?
I didn't know that he did, but it was Josh Simpson.
Yeah, well, no, Josh Simpson's terrible. We know that, but there was a pitcher on the Mets.
Jan? Jeffrey Jan?
Not Jan. He was an older guy that had been, he was 30s at the very least that they just called up to pitch a game.
Oh, yeah. Robert Stock. Yes. How did he do?
Stock,
I didn't even see. How did he pitch this weekend?
I thought I couldn't read. I'm like, I think that's the guy, and he got crushed. The Pirates destroyed him.
Sorry.
But I was like, I couldn't remember. I was like, is that him? But the Mets, again, it looks like that farm system, though, of 32-year-old rookies they're calling up. The Mets might have better days coming up, and I don't think Soto, or is Soto, coming back this year. Do we know? Not that it's going to help them here tonight, because I think they're in trouble one way or another against Atlanta here, kicking things off a little bit later.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about Soto, but the Mets a half hour ago said farewell, it seems like, for the season to Devin Williams. They placed him on the injured list, so that you're not going to see him back. And so Devin Williams was the 9th, and then Luke Weaver was the 8th. Both those guys are gone. Was it Raley was the relief pitcher? I forget if I believe they traded him, left-handed pitcher. They traded him as well. He was the 7th. So it looks like, Joe, they're saying Kodai Senga could be the next closer. How about that?
Wow.
Of the New York Mets. And that's not something that I would buy into there. But look, the Mets could have never predicted that the season would have gone so south. They have played better, of course. They couldn't play worse. They've played a little bit better. They've won a couple series. But that's another good betting tip, I guess. Like, if you're late in the game with the Mets, you really can't feel comfortable about them holding any lead at this point. Not that Devin Williams was so fantastic and having a great year, but now they're literally without their 7th and their 8th and their 9th inning guys, going into games. I mean, that's you're counting on a lot of young guys to get outs here, and we're not even in September yet. So Devin Williams to the IL. That's the latest one today.
Yeah, it's that's not good. And they got this young kid going. Christian Scott going tonight, who I happen to like.
Good. Yeah,
he's he happens to be pretty good. And it's been a good week for the Mets too. At least offensively, the bats have started to get going. But they got to start this week series here. Bryce Elder, who had a stretch there in July, was not great, but he has won his last 3. And Atlanta quietly having a pretty darn good season at home here. Truist Park has become a very difficult place for people, for teams to come in and beat Atlanta. In fact, I think since the All-Star game, 12-2 at Truist. And what they do, they had Miami. We saw Washington there. Now the Mets. So they're 39-20 at home and 15-3-1 in home series. So I didn't realize Truist was that. Is it just this year, or have they always been this good at home?
I mean, the Braves are just good, so it just feels like it, but the team is good, so they're just winning games. And, the one player, it seems to me, and they lost, the left-handed guys they have are great, and then, of course, they have Iglesias, but the guy, to me, that's climbing, and he's now in the MVP race, you can see in the National League, and I don't think he's going to win, but he's in there, is Matt Olson, Joe. Matt Olson is now on an absolute tear. I mean, he's homering basically every other day. It's going to be one of those two guys winning the MVP. But if, for example, on one of the prediction markets, if you could find Matt Olson and get in on him, he may end up finishing 3rd or 4th at the end of the season. He's been that good. Remember, a couple of years ago, Olson had that monster season. Some people think he could hit 50 home runs this year, Joe. I mean, it would be a little bit of a long shot, but not impossible with the way that he's hitting the ball. So Acuna's back. He's hitting well. Riley's been better. Ozzie Albies does what he does. They have a really good team. They didn't add a ton at the trade deadline, so they're going to have to hope some of these injured guys come back. And, naturally, I think the Braves have played themselves into a playoff spot. What they do with that spot still remains to be seen. You have to hope, if you're a Braves fan, at Truist and at the end of the season, they look good. A couple of years ago, remember, they took their foot off the pedal a little bit, started taking some players out, didn't play, and then immediately when the playoffs started, they didn't play well. So I would think that they'll change that approach this year.
And listen, Bryce Elder's been fantastic for him this season, given all the injuries, and he has been lights out since the All-Star break. So we'll see. We'll see if he can dominate the Mets here tonight, who have actually been swinging the bats much, much better. But Atlanta, New York, coming up 7:15 Eastern Time, first pitch. Much more to get to here as the slate in Major League Baseball is getting fun. Game time decisions got you covered.
For me, Ohtani is the MVP, even if he pitches 15 games a year and that's it. The guy's the best hitter in baseball, or one of them, and pitches, even if it's 15 games a year and he's great, sign me up. I think he still wins, but I think I like the other investments there.
Yeah, I would say we're in total agreement on this. Ohtani's going to win the award, but that doesn't mean that A, he's a good investment at this point, and B, another player isn't a good investment.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
What Michigan has to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
The dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Just can't win the big game. He can't get us in the big game. Well, we got to let him go now because we're tired. We'll keep the quarterback. So, you know what I've been saying? Okay, you kept the quarterback. Guess what? Mr. Lamar Jackson, it's on you now.
Hey,
It's on you.
Absolutely.
Right? It's on Lamar.
It is totally on him now, and the new coaching staff there.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. Lot getting ready here this week. Major League Baseball. Again, we're smack in the middle of August. Some very important series for some very winnable divisions still coming up here over the next few weeks. Outside of, and listen, the American League East isn't exactly wrapped up, although Tampa continues to just win, whether it's on the road or it's at the Trop. They did a great job over the weekend. All very close games that you would expect when, especially in Seattle. But you got to win those games, and they certainly did, and pretty darn impressive. But to me, Tampa really starting to round into form here, and they've got a hold of that top spot in the American League East, and we've talked about it on the show before, Craig. I think home field best record in the American League would go a long way for Tampa. Although if they keep winning games out on the road like they're doing too, I might have to rethink that one as well.
Yeah, no, they're playing great. Best team, arguably, in the American League right now. The issue, if they do have one, is they're a little thin pitching-wise because on top of losing Shane McClanahan, they also lost Griffin Jax, and Jax had been a big part of their rotation. Remember, he started out of the bullpen. They moved him into the rotation. He's more or less a 4 or 5 inning guy. He's done a great job for them, and now he is out too. So that's a little thin, Joe. And now, you look at their rotation and ask yourself, are they losing one pitcher away from being cooked, so to speak? So I hope for Tampa. They said that McClanahan's injury wasn't serious and he would come back immediately off the IL. I always question those sort of things. Jax's sounds a little bit serious. It does not sound like Jax is coming back like soon or anything like that. So look, they always do a good job manipulating and using pitchers, using openers and bulk guys and things like that. But Joe, that doesn't usually win in the postseason. So I'll be curious how Tampa Bay sort of maneuvers the next 2 months. Do they dip into their minor league system to bring somebody up? I mean, that's always a possibility too, but give them credit because Nick Martinez, who they acquired in the offseason, that guy's been fantastic, and provided he is going and they have 2 other starters going, at least for now, that can kind of get them to September. But through September, they're going to need McClanahan and some others to finish it off.
Yeah, they're going to need a little bit of help here, and you wonder, Craig, and you often go, wow, did Tampa, did they peak too soon? We had this conversation about the Braves. Like, the Braves were so ridiculously good in April and May, and then they had that kind of lull. They came back, but here we go again, end of July. They're revving it up. I mean, there's ebbs and flows to every Major League Baseball season, but who's got the highest ceiling still here where we have not seen the best, or the best could very well still be yet to come here? We've seen the Phillies make runs over the last couple of years in the second half. Is there one team you think that, hold on, I don't think we've seen the best yet?
Maybe Texas. The Rangers, they haven't gone by the wayside like Seattle. So that would be one team that's kind of hanging in there. But the problem is it's like 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, 3 steps forward, 2 steps back with them. I could see the Rangers with DeGrom and Eovaldi and that hitting with Seager and some of the other guys. I could see them going on a run, Joe. That's the team I can. Now, I would have said that about Seattle for sure, so keep that in mind. I would have absolutely said that. I'm not saying that anymore about them. They have just lost too many games for me. They've fallen too far below 500. And you brought up a good point. Houston's schedule is pretty light. By the point it may mean something, Houston may have banked a lot of wins there too. So as much as I thought that Houston was out of it and headed toward a rebuild, it appears that they are back in. And if you want me to give you that one team that I think has a run on them, it would be the Rangers. There's just too much talent for them to just win 81 games this year, Joe. That would be a surprise for me.
And we have seen this happen and play out before. I think we've seen the Guardians do this their fair share of times, right? Where they're kind of middle of the road, then all of a sudden, right towards starting this time, right through the end of the regular season, it's like, oh boy, they're a difficult out here. With the moves they made, I still believe it is their division to lose here. But boy, they have not made it easy on us here, Craig. Thinking that That just when you think, all right, the bullpen is fine, they're good, they got Case Smith, yeah, and now their bullpen is a hot mess. They can't score. The White Sox end up taking what, 2 out of 3 from them there in a tough game yesterday with a 2.5 hour rain delay here. But I don't. Is it White Sox? Is it Guardians? Do the Twins still have a shot, or are they like Seattle? Are we sticking a fork in them too?
Minnesota's still hanging in there, and they're hoping for the best. I'm not a huge fan of them, and like I said, I thought that you'd see them fall apart. It hasn't quite happened yet. They're kind of hanging around. Cleveland had a brutal weekend, so naturally they've taken a step back, and for the first time we have a team in the Central with minus money to win the division. So the White Sox were never minus money, and now they are there. So I think what's interesting too is that for those people who, like some of the ceremony of baseball, you're going to get to see the Twins play arguably their biggest national TV moment coming up here on the 13th when they play the Field of Dreams game on Netflix. They play against the Phillies, and usually, that was a very well done event a couple of years ago when they had that, and I would expect it to be well done again. So that is coming up. Is that Wednesday night, I think? If whatever the 13th is, that's when the Field of Dreams game is coming up.
Yeah, that is Thursday night, I believe. You're correct. So they are continuing. I was wondering when that was coming, but yeah, hey, that should be an awful lot of fun to watch.
That was a good one.
But
yeah,
I think that's going to be fun. The problem is, which version of the Phillies shows up? Do you have any idea, Craig? Because I'd love to figure out. Is it the version where Wheeler all of a sudden gets lit up and can't be trusted to win games? I mean, they were fortunate not to get swept by Toronto over the weekend here, and it just feels like if it ain't the bullpen, it's them leaving 14 guys on base without any of the big bats getting a hit here. Very confounding team. I don't know what to make of Philly. I know what the ceiling is. I'm worried they've already played their best baseball and that it's pretty much over at this point.
No, I think the Phillies are still very much in it, but they're going to find themselves, I believe, a game or two back of Arizona pretty soon here because the Rockies are now in Arizona, and I would assume Arizona is going to win this series because they usually take care of these teams that are below them. The Phillies could be in the end the teams that are chasing the third spot. It could be Philadelphia, but on paper, it would be an unmitigated disaster for the Phillies not to make the playoffs. As big as a disaster as the Mets, probably not. The Mets were absolutely horrendous and are going to push 90 losses, if not more. If Philly doesn't make it, it would be, an 80-loss team. But I still do think that the Cubs and the Phillies will get in the National League. I'm not positive about Arizona, San Diego, Miami, St. Louis, etc. I still think I need to see more before I determine that. I feel like the Pirates now, Joe, after what I saw this weekend, do I have a fork in them like Seattle? It's pretty close. Like I said, I think this week is the week for the Pirates. Pirates will play Miami, as I mentioned, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The big question for the Marlins is, and when I get back to the park, I'll know tomorrow, but Kyle Stowers, who's arguably their best offensive power player, had a hamstring strain. Oof. And I believe, in the end, you usually don't survive that. You usually go on the IL for a period of time. And if the Marlins lose him for a period of time, not to mention they just traded Liam Hicks last week, they really are going to need a lot of guys to step up, Griffin Conine and some others too. A loss of Stowers is going to be a big one if indeed, and I don't have any information on that, but if he goes on the IL, which I would guess he would, the Marlins don't really have a replacement player for him. So it's just what happens. It's the nature of the game.
It's and listen, we're getting to that point now where one player here or there could end a season for some teams here, and a lot of these teams that are battling all have very important games and series coming up against the teams that they are chasing. And this should be a very interesting next couple of weeks as we get ready for, some football, NFL, back preseason, week 1 on Thursday. Got some headlines there for you as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid.
For me, Ohtani is the MVP, even if he pitches 15 games a year and that's it. The guy's the best hitter in baseball, or one of them, and pitches, even if it's 15 games a year and he's great, sign me up. I think he still wins, but I think I like the other investments there.
Yeah, I would say we're in total agreement on this. Ohtani's going to win the award, but that doesn't mean that A, he's a good investment at this point, and B, another player isn't a good investment.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
What Michigan has to play versus Penn State is insane. Like, instead of Big Ten teams worrying about SEC and all that, like, Michigan fans should not be happy about what Matt Campbell gets to walk into. James Franklin's got to be kicking himself. Penn State do not play Oregon, Indiana, or Ohio State. They avoided the entire Big Three of the it's incredible.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You know, the dark days are ahead for the Warriors. And when Curry and Kerr and Draymond all leave, what are we going to be looking at that franchise that has been a mainstay of the NBA, you know, the face of the NBA and NBA playoffs for so long? Where are they going to be? So I see no issue with them bringing Draymond back. Why not? You have one last go at things with the trio that they still have there. But I see this as a very long season.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Just can't win the big game. He can't get us in the big game. Well, we got to let him go now because we're tired. We'll keep the quarterback. So, you know what I've been saying? Okay, you kept the quarterback. Guess what? Mr. Lamar Jackson, it's on you now.
Hey,
It's on you.
Absolutely.
Right? It's on Lamar.
It is totally on him now and the new coaching staff there.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
All right, welcome back. Game time decisions here on this Monday in the SportsGrid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish here as we are getting ready here, top of the hour, top of next hour, rather. We'll have all sorts
I wish.
of Major League Baseball action. Yeah, I know. That would be great. Usually we get a 6 o'clock hour somewhere in there, maybe
always.
a couple of games. Not but 7 o'clock coming your way here tonight. So there are some games still that we'll talk about coming up there. But the NFL, of course, is week one. The preseason is almost upon us. Thursday night, we have a nice slate of games. We were just going over the list here of we're trying to keep everyone as healthy as possible heading into the season. We know the two rookies of the Jets, Kenyon Sadiq here, and of course, David Bailey, who was the coveted edge rusher that Aaron Glenn and the Jets ended up getting. He was injured over the weekend at practice. They say he's day-to-day, but that just likely means we won't be seeing him anytime soon. And when you get the guys like Christian McCaffrey and Bosa, also guys that have been reported now that they're going to kind of hold them back a little bit. They're experiencing. I don't need to see those. Do you need to feel good about seeing those guys in the preseason at all, Craig, at this point? Because I'd rather not see them, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about the first week or so of camp opening is that I generally through the years have said, like, you know, for fantasy football too, you got to wait to draft because you know, a lot of injuries have happened. It felt like the last 2 years, Joe, we haven't had a lot of injuries. It's like been clean going into the season. I don't know what is going on with this training camp, though. A lot of guys, Joe, seem to be getting hurt. Like a lot. Like, you know, Waddle on Denver and Luther Burden on Chicago and San Francisco. Yep. I mean, it seems like they got injuries all over the place again. I guess that's nothing new. They always do. But I saw Mike Evans hasn't practiced in like a week. So this is a different year, it feels like, a different August at least than in the past. So it only drives the point home more that you're not going to see any of these guys play in the preseason. It's just it's never going to happen. There's no point. Guys now get their time in those joint practices, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, are next week. So those begin next week for a lot of the teams. This weekend, I don't even know what you're going to expect this week, honestly, Joe. Now, that first preseason game was pretty darn good between Arizona and Carolina, surprisingly. I didn't see it, but of course I saw what happened, the highlights at the end of the game. So that was actually a nice surprise. But for me, at least, what I see coming across my feed is stunning to me that so many guys are hurt already in the first week of camp. Am I wrong with that? Am I reading that wrong? I was in baseball mode the last 2 days, but I would ask you.
I am with you. I mean, I believe Luther Burton also, big wide receiver for Chicago. Just, he's now they're saying, they hope he's going to, the list goes on. And then you've got, like, when did Teddy Bridgewater just decides to up and retire? He gets to camp and he's like, you know what? I'm done. I don't want anything. I do it. So then I can't believe, is it Joshua Dobbs they end up signing now to be Jared Goff's backup? They just had a big injury with their new starting center, by the way, who went down earlier today. That's not great because you just paid a running back an awful lot of money. You need the offensive line to step up here and be able to block. But I was a little shocked by that. But Dobbs has been around the corner. And listen, you don't stand a shot, I can't even believe I say it, without Jared Goff anyway. I mean, it's Josh Dobbs is not going to carry the Lions for more than a half or a game. You need Jared Goff, and you need that offensive line to be good. Otherwise, I don't know, after a disappointing season last year, especially for a dome team, I hate to see injuries this time of year with teams like Detroit, because I do think they're poised for a bounce back. But my goodness, you better be able to keep Goff and company upright. Otherwise, you're going to have a big problem again this year in that division.
Yeah, and again, I would say this, though, Joe, in fairness to Detroit and Jared Goff and everyone else, I think that you would say the same thing about 25 other teams in the NFL. Like, I really, we're at the point now, in my opinion, is that I don't think we have 5 good backup quarterbacks in the NFL. I don't think so. Is it possible that there are 1 or 2 or maybe 3? I don't think we have 5 good backups. I mean, maybe you do. I do not think we have 5 good backups. Like, I think it's fair to say that Atlanta has a starter and a 1A and a 1B. So, yeah. And, like, there's a battle going there. But, like, it's also fair to say that, like, Jacoby Brissett is the starter in Arizona. I know he was so good last year, but he's, like, a backup quarterback, too. And so you're going to tell me that 20 teams in the NFL, when their guys get hurt, I think it's over. Like, when Buffalo's guy gets hurt, it's done. When the Ravens guy gets hurt, it's done for them too. When Dallas's guy goes down, it's always been done. Whenever he's gone down, their season has gone down too. And I think that applies. Again, I understand what you're saying there, but I think outside of like is Flacco even on a team? Like Joe Flacco coming in to sort of save a couple weeks, and maybe Gardner Minshew coming in to save a couple weeks. Like that's about it for me. Like I just don't see. You know who. I don't know where he is right now. You'd have to tell me. But Mac Jones, that's a guy that held it down when he played last year as a backup quarterback. Is Mac Jones? He's in San Francisco. Okay, so that's a good move. If Brock Purdy goes down, I'll give you that. Mac Jones could come in, and that's one right there that I think that could probably keep the 49ers afloat. But could you give me 4 other situations in the NFL where that would happen?
Well,
I cannot.
If a 39-year-old Matt Stafford gets hurt, is the Rams season over?
Yes.
So you got no love for Ty Simpson or Stetson Bennett or the system. Or the system. Or McVay, and you don't think so. All right, so you don't think anything. What about Sam Darnold? If Sam Darnold goes down?
Sam Darnold is in Seattle?
Yes.
And the backup is?
Does it matter? Sam Darnold.
Yes, it does matter. I need to know the name, Joe. That's not fair. If the backup's name is Chris Kofsky, the season's over, okay? Give me the name. Who is the backup? Chris,
who is back? Who is it, Chris, for the Seattle Seahawks backing up the backup quarterback who's the starter?
Drew Lock.
Drew Lock.
The season is over. The season is over. Yes. Yes.
It should have been over to begin with. It's Sam Darnold.
Okay, but I know, but that's right. But you there's no good backups.
All right, game time decisions. Welcome back here on a
Winston.
Monday. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish. So now we've got it here as the NFL preseason is upon us, and it's good to have NFL back. Craig had mentioned that he doesn't believe we can find at least 5 good backups that can help a team if the starter goes down. So I think we had a couple. I'm going to run through them with you here. You mentioned Jacoby Brissett for Arizona. Gardner Minshew is his backup. Is there a difference?
I mean, they're gonna lose a million games anyway, so I don't even know if that's a valid one because they really don't even have a starter. So I don't even know if we got let me revise. Any team that has a valid starter and then has a backup, like valid, like you, Jacoby Brissett, Joe. How many teams other than Arizona would he start for in the NFL? 0, correct? Is that accurate? 0, right? Maybe the Jets.
Yeah.
Maybe the Jets.
New England.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there are some terrible teams there. All right, let me ask you this. If CJ Stroud goes down and Davis Mills comes in, is Davis Mills a worthy backup? Dead. Done. Okay, so that's done there. Okay. How about Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville?
Yeah.
Nick Mullins is his longtime backup.
No, Nick Mullins. No. Nick Mullins comes in. He throws 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. They say they're going to be okay, and then 7 interceptions the next week. No.
Okay. So you got
Nick Mullins will survive
Mendoza
a game
in Vegas, and Kirk Cousins is his backup.
I mean,
Aiden O'Connell is also there.
Yeah, you know what? You know what? Between those 3, I don't see much of a difference. I could see them. Look, the Raiders should win 6-7 games, so I'll give you that one. It seems like they have a quarterback and a half, at least on that team.
Okay, I like that. Jackson Dart, Jameis Winston, Brandon Allen.
No. Winston, a lot of fun. Probably my favorite player in the NFL. Wins no games. A lot of fun, though.
All right.
Wins nothing.
Aaron Rodgers at 100 years old goes down, and you've got Mason Rudolph coming in.
No. We've seen Mason Rudolph. It never goes well. Never.
All right.
True.
How about, I don't know, Tampa? Let's say Baker Mayfield throws a temper tantrum, sits out.
What do we got?
There is nobody good backing it.
Okay,
Jake
so
Browning. Cam Ward. Tennessee.
Okay, Cam Ward. Yeah.
Mitch Trubisky or Will Levis comes in.
Mitch Trubisky. No.
You're not lying. No.
I would say Will Levis has a better shot. I would say Will Levis has a better shot.
Oh, there is no way.
I haven't even seen
that is terrible.
Okay, keep going.
All right.
We're running out of time.
All right. Well, here's one. Patrick Mahomes.
We haven't gotten to 5 yet.
Okay. Patrick Mahomes goes down. Justin Fields steps in, and not even so much of a step, right?
Give it to him.
I give him that as well.
Yes. I give it good backup.
Daniel Jones goes down. Riley Leonard, Easton Stick.
No. Easton Stick.
All right, so Jordan
Love
gave you
Fields.
Goes down for Green Bay. But no, Fields is awful. Absolutely not. Jordan
As a backup?
Love, Tyrod Taylor is his backup.
No, we've tried this a million times. No. The season's over. Season's over.
Does it matter who starts or backs up in Cleveland?
No. That's like an Arizona situation.
Okay, so that's
and a Miami situation, and like a Miami situation. Honestly, like I hope Malik Willis is good and he plays really well. But if he doesn't, they have no one to go to anyway. It doesn't matter. Bryce
Young, Carolina.
Bryce Young, Carolina.
We did see Haynes King play for Carolina. I think he got hurt. Kenny Pickett is the backup there. Kenny Pickett.
Maybe saved. Maybe saves the season. Maybe. Yeah. Falcons have 2. I gave you that. Falcons for sure. I'm giving you the Falcons. Falcons have a starter and a backup. Viable. Yes.
Well, let's go to the third because neither the starter or the backup will ever be healthy enough long enough. So Cooper Rush would be the third stringer on there. So Cooper Rush to be under any better than Tua or Penix Jr.?
No, Cooper Rush hung in there when Dak went down. Then he went to the Ravens, I think. No.
Baltimore, you mentioned Lamar goes down.
No, you can't. They haven't been able to fix that. No.
Tyler Huntley? No.
No.
Yeah, no. We're not buying that.
Fun
All right.
player. They win no games with him. It's like everyone's like, oh, he's okay. They don't win any games.
So what is it? Tyler Shuck versus Spencer Radler.
It's about the same. It's about the same. Rattler, fair backup. I'm gonna give you that one. I would give that one. Rattler looked okay
so
when he played. Yes. So I think we got 3 so far. 3 teams.
Jalen Hurts /
I got 4
Andy
there.
Dalton or Tanner McGee, right?
And both
so
are viable.
Good there
yes.
with that.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, they
you
did a
said
good job.
Mac Jones and Purdy. Sam Donald, Drew Lock. Baker, is not there. What about Miami?
We got to 5.
Malik Willis.
No.
Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers. No.
0
the
points.
Future of Miami.
They have half a quarterback.
Oh, this is a rough crowd. This is a rough crowd. Game time decisions continues. All right, welcome in Game Time Decisions here on the SportsGrid Network. A very happy Monday to you. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish as we're getting ready here for 10 Major League Baseball games on the slate here tonight. Coming up in just about an hour from now, it'll kick off at the Rogers Center there as Toronto will be hosting the suddenly Boston Red Sox, who can't seem to win a game over the last couple anyway here. They're going to try to bounce back. And then, of course, it's going to end with Tariq Skubal at Ches Ravine there in a Dodger uniform, taking on a American League former division there, which is ironic in the Kansas City Royals there. But we got football coming up this week. We've got another really interesting one, too, here, Craig, coming up, I think, with the Texas Rangers tonight, who are taking on the Angels. And you and I talked about Detmers. I really thought he was going to be traded. And ever since that moment, he has been awful. I mean, it just, you want to talk about a guy that looks completely uninterested. I don't know if he was really hoping he was going to be traded or what was happening there, but it's the Angels. You can't fault the guy for that. But Mackenzie Gore, first start back off of, I believe, paternity leave. This is his first game back. It's a huge game. It's in the L.A., and the Rangers very much alive. And you got to love when a guy like, DeGrom invokes his no trade clause and says, I have no desire to go to Atlanta. I think we can win here. That's got to play well in the clubhouse here, too, no?
Yeah, I saw the Angels play this weekend, Joe. They don't have a terrible offense. It seems to me that 4 or 5 guys in that offense I saw, and I was on the pregame and postgame for all 3 games that they played. They do have a pretty good top of the lineup, a pretty good middle of the lineup. Trout is still a good player. He's playing well. Detmers is okay. The issue, Joe, the 0 pitching. Zero pitching. Like, when I say 0, it is 0. I saw this kid, Raineri, pitch this weekend, and he's been really good, and he had a bad start. Joe, I'm not backing the Angels the rest of the way. It's a better way to play the Angels, for me, is as long as they're not up in any game. Like, let's say you're looking at 1-1 in the second, 1-1 in the third, 0-0 in the fourth. You just blast the other team halfway through the game. That's the way that I would play it.
Really?
Their bullpen is awful. They went to the catcher yesterday, Heineman. He was throwing eephus pitches at 40 miles an hour. They are playing toward next year. They're playing a lot of young guys. 3 guys, I think, made their debut against the Marlins this weekend, Joe. There's nothing wrong with a team doing this, but you'd be crazy to back them. Now, in the steel cage match of death between the A's and the Angels, I don't know who I would take. I mean, these are 2 horrendous teams. But my guess is, if you're asking me between those 2, I think I still would take the Angels, because the A's don't have Nick Kurtz and the Angels do have Mike Trout. So if you're looking to fade one of those 2 teams, I keep on fading the A's, mostly fading the Angels based on the matchups. But my goodness, Joe, I've seen almost every team play now, either on TV or in person this season. The Angels, unfortunately, are right there. Right at the bottom, like right at the bottom of the league with a lot of those other teams. They're awful.
Now, the good news for Texas is they've got a 4-game set beginning tonight with the Angels. Then they go to Sacramento, Greg. They take on the Athletics. Back-to-back winning situations here. Then they come home and take on the Nationals. And then the Angels come back to town after that. So the next 4 series for Texas could set them up pretty well into making a run for this. And I'm going to be to me, do the Rangers have the bullpen? Do they have enough arms back there that can hold it down? I think Eovaldi, I think DeGrom, I think obviously tonight with Gore. I think they have the starting pitching. I believe that the bats are going to come around. But to me, it's all about the back end of that bullpen. Can we trust them? Because if you can't beat the next 3 or 4 series, the Angels twice, the Athletics, and the Nationals at home, then you ought to just hand it. You ought to just hand it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No?
Like, shouldn't Texas go like 7-3 in the next 10, Joe? That's a great point.
That's what
I didn't
I'm
realize
thinking.
they had that home schedule, and they do have a really good 9th inning kid, Jacob Latz. But you're right. Beyond that,
Latz is great.
It's hard to get to the 9th inning with Texas. I totally agree with you there. But yeah, that schedule really sets up for them well. I think Houston has done such a good job jumping back in that I have to just acknowledge that I was wrong about them. But I could absolutely see those 2 teams, Houston and Texas. And if I'm not mistaken, I think they play each other the last 3 games of the season. So going right down to the end in September. I do not give up on Texas. Seattle, I'm giving up after the weekend. That's it.
Yeah, you're done. Well, it's kind of hard
I'm off Seattle.
to. Yeah. I mean, the Astros, I think, Greg, we were looking at it earlier. They had less than a 13% chance of making the playoffs as of July 18th. So that's how quick now they've got a legit shot at actually winning the American League West here. And the bullpen got healthier. The bats got healthier here a little bit, and it doesn't hurt that the Mariners, have lost what? So they just can't seem to buy a run. It's one of the worst offenses to watch here. But they have had some success against Houston. But, Houston, there's no excuse with them, too. But that was what a difference 3 weeks makes. I mean, that's real. July 18th, less than a 13% chance. And now all of a sudden they've got a really good shot at actually winning the division.
So I'll give you some of the odds here. I put my glasses on for the folks at home so I can read this. These are the FanGraphs percentages, which is generally what the league goes by, basically. When teams look at their real chances, they have their own internal systems, but they reference FanGraphs. So in the American League, to make the playoffs, the Yankees are 99% according to FanGraphs, and the Red Sox are 95%. So those two teams, barring some catastrophe, make the playoffs. Make it. Not win the division, make the playoffs. 54%, Joe, is Texas. FanGraphs has 54%. They have them as the final wild card, making the playoffs. And then beyond that, teams with a very good shot still. This is not the White Sox. White Sox, of course, assuming they win the division. You have Detroit at 32%, Cleveland at 35%, Seattle at 31%, Minnesota at 25%, and then the Orioles at 13%. So Seattle at 31%. It's based on talent and WAR and all those other stats too. I mean, Seattle still is literally right there. But what I could tell you is that Seattle situation right now feels like a Pittsburgh situation from about a week ago, where Pittsburgh, because they were so good and they made those trades, it was like they still had their percentages on FanGraphs relatively high. And then after they got wiped, they threw them down. I feel like the same thing for Seattle is coming here. Either Seattle has to go on a very big run here in the next couple of weeks, or you're going to see their percentages drop.
Yeah, I mean, my goodness. That is just absolutely crazy. The good thing about Seattle, though, it's not their schedule, because they've got 3 coming up in the Bronx against the Yankees, 3 in Houston, and then they got 3 in Milwaukee, and then they come home to take on the Cubs and Phillies. So they have absolutely not a lot of room for error. The only good thing is, Greg, they are 7-1 this year against Houston. For whatever reason, they're 7-1 against Houston here. But this is Yankees on the road. Then you got to take on the Brewers, Cubs, Phillies. You're talking about 3 or 4 of the best teams in both conferences here, and a team that can't score runs. I think they're in trouble in a big, big way. If they lose this series to the Yankees, no matter what they do with the Astros, is it officially stick a fork done for you?
I think so, but I was wrong about Houston, and Houston put themselves back in it. So, and St. Louis has toyed with us all season long too. It's been a fun year in baseball. It's just we're really to the point where I know they're thinking of adding another playoff team to the mix, but at some point you're going to become the NBA if you're Major League Baseball adding more playoff teams. It's just the truth. Point. I mean, we're starting to reward some mediocrity. I don't mind teams getting in a game or 2 above 500, but NBA teams are getting in 7 games below. It's a little ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, it just makes the product that much better. Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid. All right, welcome back in. Here we go. Game time decisions on the SportsGrid network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish, as we've just about a little less than an hour away from the opening game here tonight on a 10-game slate, as Boston still trying to figure out what happened over the weekend there against the Athletics there, as they lost a couple of games they had no business losing, but they'll have a chance to make it right by taking on Toronto here tonight. And guess who is on the mound here tonight, Greg? I just did not see Sonny Gray having the kind of year that he had. Call me crazy. But he just continues to deliver for this Red Sox team. Now, Jameson Taillon is back, I guess, right? Although he got back from the IL and he got absolutely destroyed there. Cubs traded him. Now he's with Toronto. Is this exactly what Boston needs here to be able to get back on track, is to face a guy like him tonight?
Well, you know, Joe, I think it's a fair question, but it may be a little unreasonable because at some point Boston's going to play 500 baseball, and maybe it's over their next 10 games. They go 5-5 like everybody else in the league. They were playing out of this world, Joe. Like, it's not possible for them to continue to play 80% win baseball. It doesn't equate. So I would say don't be surprised if the Blue Jays win the series. Like, regression is going to come for the Red Sox, Joe. They cannot win every single game the rest of the season. It's not going to happen. If it does, they're going to have baseball's best record. And I don't think that they will, just like I don't think that LA is going to lose every game the rest of the season. So, the regression comes for everybody. It's going to come for Boston. You saw it a little this weekend. Don't be surprised if it continues a little bit. They were just playing super hot. They've now put themselves in a great position for the postseason, and I certainly think they've got a great shot to get in. Like we were just talking about, Fangraphs has them over 90%, so that tells you they got a great shot. But it's time to get off just blind betting Boston, Joe, now, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I think what we say, I always said, right? They don't have to just lose one. I got to see them lose a couple in a row.
Like they did.
And I think, well, we just watched them do that against a very that's the danger of laying those big prices, because those prices this weekend, Craig, they were Dodger territory for a Boston team that, you had a nice July, but at some point, regression to the mean is going to hit in here. And I almost can say the same thing for Sonny Gray. At some point, he's not blowing the ball by guys. He's not a power pick. At some point, I think that's going to go the other way here. But that 95% to make the playoffs, interesting number there, Craig. And Rushman, I believe, not ready to come back, but might come back this week.
Soon, right. They're saying that maybe a quick rehab assignment and then back, yes. He is set to come back. The other player that is desperate to come back, and they need him back too, is O'Neal Cruz of Pittsburgh. That's the other name that's on a rehab assignment. And, that's the thing, Joe, is that the Pirates attacked the bullpen at the trade deadline, and it felt like that was the right move. But a team like the Pirates were just so paper thin to begin with, and then they lost Ryan O'Hearn and really didn't replace him. And so what did they really think was going to happen without O'Hearn? And you could just see they've gone completely in the toilet, so to speak. And tomorrow night I won't be here with you, but it is really one of the bigger questions, and I'm sure it's just driving people crazy from a betting perspective, is, Joe, and I'd love your thoughts on this, is that Paul Skeens. What is going on with Paul Skeens? Like, this is not 2 starts or 3 starts anymore. Paul Skeens going back, almost 2 months. His ERA is like 6. So I don't know. It's a really perplexing situation. I'm sure if the Pirates had the answer, they would give it. They just seem to be giving the same answer every time, which is that he's going to get right, and he just never does.
No, he doesn't. And the problem is, and my fear for Pirates fans is that they're going to look back on this season, and when they don't make the playoffs, Craig, they're going to look back at his starts and go, my goodness. He's had some ridiculous blow-ups this year that just should not happen. I mean, he allowed, I think, 13 runs in 14 and a half innings with a combined 10 walks here at one stretch. So, yeah, I do not think control has been a little bit of an issue. You and I have watched them pitch on In-Game Live. We've covered it, and it feels like either he's working on something or he's falling in love with a pit, but everything seems to be over the plate, and hitters are making him pay for it. But when you look at how many opportunities Pittsburgh had with him on the mound this year to win games, and they didn't, and he was Paul Skeens, but they couldn't hit, I think ultimately that's what is going to separate them from making a run at this and not. And it's offense to me is the biggest problem. You got to win at least, I mean, 70% of Paul Skeens' starts. Otherwise, what are you doing? You don't deserve to make the playoffs, right?
No, and they're pitching with Jared Jones and Ashcraft. I mean, their pitching is good enough to win, and it just hasn't been the case. And so I think this is put up or shut up time this week here in South Florida. If they don't win this series, there's nothing else to say. They're going to be just so far behind. The other interesting series, too, is Houston taking on San Francisco this week. As you mentioned, Houston's kind of got this cupcake schedule. This week, Wisniewski is going to start for Houston. San Francisco just had their hands full with Detroit over the weekend. It is crazy to see the Giants with that payroll and everything that's gone wrong for them be 20 games under 500. So, yes, that pace, folks, is for a 90-loss season for the San Francisco Giants. I mean, wow, what has happened to them? But lots of unders, I think, coming in this week in San Francisco. They're just not scoring at all.
No, they can. And that was, I mean, a classic pitcher's duel yesterday, too, with Melton for Detroit and, of course, Logan Webb for the Giants. But I that bullpen is not good. The ballpark is great for suppressing runs. And teams coming off a Sunday night baseball game, right? Lost and then have to travel. Not like they're flying across the country to go to the Bay Area there, but it's usually never easy in that spot. Or though I don't know with Wisniewski and Tidwell. Tidwell's got what, 4 Major League Baseball starts under him. Wisniewski's back second time off of the IL. I don't know. Am I running to lay minus 140, 150 with Houston? Yes, they have the better lineup, but they weren't exactly crushing the ball under in the Padres either, right?
I think the unders a play here for me tonight in that game between these two teams. I think a lot of unders coming in now with San Francisco, and you're right. Houston, I mean, look, their team is really good, but just walk your on. That's all you got to do.
Do not pitch to them. Do not. Game. right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish as we're getting ready for a big night of Major League Baseball. Big week of NFL action. Don't forget, it's here. Thursday nights will be the Week 1 preseason games. Get your first look at some of your favorite teams and players on the card this week. Let's just hope there are no crazy injuries. That's all we can hope for here, as a redacted and, toned down preseason already is likely going. You're going to be looking at some of those names going, who exactly is this? But one name you will not miss this year, next year, and forever after that is Mizorowski here of the Milwaukee Brewers. The kid is now, I think, the second fastest to 200 strikeouts.
I saw that.
That is unbelievable here. And, I mean, 29 of his first 30 pitches last time that he pitched, 100, 101, 102. I mean, how sustainable is it? Although, what did Randy Johnson? He used to strike out 300 in a season like it was nobody's business. But 200 is crazy, though.
But Randy was pitching 270 innings or 250 innings or even 200 innings and striking out 300. Mizorowski would be lucky to sniff 160, 170.
Wow.
Look, it's a different game. It's a different game. A lot of pitching's all-time records will never be broken. We'll never see another 300-win pitcher ever. I don't even know if we'll see a 250. The game has changed, but what has not changed are strikeouts, and that strikeouts are king, and velocity, Joe, is still king. And so that's one thing that you're still going to see every single year. You're still going to see a lot of guys striking out between 2 and 250 batters in a season. You're just not going to see innings. You're not going to see complete games. You're not going to see wins. Teams have just decided, Joe, that they believe, and this is every team, no matter what, whoever our starting pitcher is, we will have a better guy coming out of the bullpen third time through. They believe it no matter what, Joe. It doesn't matter who it is, when it is. They think that a guy coming out of the pen fresh to face a team that hasn't seen him after they faced the starter twice gives them better odds. And every team feels this way. So there's no complete games, they're gone. 200 innings in a season, gone. Except for like Sandy Alcantara. Like there's like 2 guys or 3 guys. That's it.
Right.
And that's where we're headed in baseball. And guess what? Mizorowski is kind of in that too. Mizorowski strikes out 1 million, and then he gets to the 6th, and after that they're like, oh yeah, we got Abreu, and we got Ashby, and we got McGill, and we'll pitch them in the 7th, 8th, and 9th, and we'll get our 3-1 win. And he's not alone. I mean, Christopher Sanchez. It's just where we are in baseball. But it's kind of crazy to me because you would think that the starting pitcher, there's a reason why he's starting, because he's better than whoever you have in the bullpen. Or else that guy in the bullpen would be starting. So that pitcher inherently is better than the guy you have in the bullpen. But they think that the bullpen arm coming in fresh is going to be better than the starting pitcher at that point in the game always. We're headed toward there. We're already there. We're trending. And that's I don't know, Joe, when we got here, maybe 3-4 years ago, but we're here officially.
And the crazy thing with him, too, and when you see younger pitchers, is there's nothing fancy. He is just blowing the ball by guys. I mean, last time out, 29 of his first 30 pitches were all fastballs in that game. And then he gets his 200th strikeout in his 129th, I think, in a 3rd inning, second fastest, only behind, guess who, Spencer Strider, who had it in 123 in the 3rd innings in 2022. He did the same thing in 2023, and here's my fear, he also blew his arm out. So, at some point, it's great that you're blowing it right by him, but at some point, you got to develop something else. No, at that point, if you're going to, if longevity matters.
Well, none of the guys like that start off like Mizorowski end like Mizorowski, like they end up. They end up, slowing down. And you're right. I mean, throwing secondary pitches is the way to keep you in games longer. The thing I guess I hear about Mizorowski, and again, having not, sat in a box against him, but the players just seem to say that when he releases the ball, it feels like he's on you, like Chris Sale. Like it feels like like they're on you. And you mentioned Randy Johnson. like the extension of his hand and as
Mhm.
close as it is to the plate is different than a lot of the other guys. And so you have less time to react. And then when you're throwing 100 miles an hour, you become almost unhittable. There's also a player on the Angels, Joe, that just came back this weekend. I saw his second game. You may remember him. You know everybody in baseball, but his name is Ben Joyce. He throws, I think, harder than Mizorowski, if I'm not mistaken. He just came back. He was the guy who had the all-time record, I think, of 105 or something like that. And then he's missed like a year and a half. He's another guy out of the bullpen that has that crazy fastball extension. Mason Miller doesn't really have it. He just throws really hard. But Ben Joyce is the other guy that is like that, but he's not a starter.
Yep, well, let's just keep them healthy here. Game Time Decisions continues on the grid. All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network. Joe Raineri alongside Craig Mish as top of the hour, getting ready here for some Major League Baseball. 10 games on the slate, and one of those games involves the Phillies, who, again, they were this close to being swept by Toronto over the weekend, and now they're going to send, of course, Painter, the struggling rookie there, back to the mound. Although they did call him back last game out. He wasn't terrible there, but it's not been a good season for him. The Cardinals are bringing out Dobbins, who's actually hasn't been terrible, pitched very well against the Yankees. And we're at a pick'em price at this point. And you and I both know the Phillies lineup, a lot more pop than anything the Cardinals are going to bring, but it's like a pick'em price, although I just doesn't feel like it should be a pick'em situation here. But I don't know if I can trust either offense, even against two suspect pitchers.
Well, the Phillies are favored basically in every game other than when Andrew Painter pitches. And when Andrew Painter pitches, they're not favored. And I believe that is tonight, correct? For Philadelphia?
That's correct.
So
they are slight favorite, yeah.
Right. Usually he's the only dog of them all. It's usually every other starter, including Nola in the rotation. Because Painter is just, he hasn't been great. He's been better lately, but you can understand why that is the case. I would lean toward a little bit of run scoring tonight in that game between those two teams. I think first 5 over or something like that for me. The other game tonight, you mentioned it earlier. I didn't realize this, Joe, because I'm as we're doing this, I'm sort of just watching previews too of the games coming up to talk about. is that I didn't realize that Freddie Peralta, his first 2 starts for Tampa, is this right? Colorado and Sacramento. He's got to go to those 2 places
Correct.
for his first 2 starts. That's
correct.
horrible. That's horrible. That's not fair.
Good. Not
he's
good.
not
And
going
he
to pitch
got
well
lit
there
up
tonight.
in Colorado. No,
I don't think he's going to
And
pitch
he
well
got
in
lit
Sacramento
up.
tonight. Yeah.
That's kind of why I'm thinking here. I'm looking at going to get runs. Of course, we're going to get runs. Listen, Lopez has not been great either. Tampa just played a whole bunch of 2 runs, 3 runs, 4-run games there with against Seattle. Now they get to go to this launch pad here, but still not seeing 10.5, 11, 11.5 here. Only seeing 10. I don't know. Are we giving Peralta too much credit here? And I hate the fact that the Athletics had to fly back home across country from Boston after winning the last 2 games of that series, and Tampa's sitting there waiting. But if you're expecting Peralta to lay $160, I don't know that I can do that either. Right?
I may do the +1.5 side with the A's tonight. Maybe that
I like where you're going.
Yeah, maybe that, because I don't know about winning the game outright, and how could they close out a game? I mean, the A's are 47-71, man. Like, I can't do that. Tampa playing well, but yeah, this is, this could be one of those 7-4 games. Either way. I think Tampa's going to get Peralta right eventually, but this is outside of Colorado the worst environment to pitch in. And the A's pitchers, by the way, have been getting smashed as well. Lopez ERA, I think, is like pushing 6.
Yep. Yeah. And once that bullpen gets involved, it's even worse, which was shocking that they ended up taking the final 2 games of that Red Sox series here in that one. Soroka is back on the mound here tonight, coming off IL. Had, I believe, a glute issue. We haven't seen him in a while. Since June, I believe, is the last time that we actually saw him pitch for Arizona, and just in the nick of time. I mean, listen, still misses plenty of bats. He's, he had a little bit of command issue going on earlier in the season, but, still a great middle rotation. Got a guy, number 3 guy that can get swing and misses. 8.5 in Arizona, especially with Colorado, who, believe it or not, has actually been swinging the bat well, even though they've lost 4 of their last 5. It's not for a lack of run production here. And I like this young kid, Hughes. Look at his numbers. And that's with pitching in Colorado. And I think the 8.5 tells you everything you need to know about this game in Arizona.
Yeah, he's pretty good, Hughes. He got crushed last time out. The key for the Rockies in the last week has been the player of the week, Jake McCarthy. He's been the hottest hitter in all of baseball, and he's batting right at the top of that lineup. And you got a righty-lefty matchup here, so you would assume McCarthy would be a little bit in the driver's seat there. But he has really carried the Rockies. We know that Goodman has been great too for them, but just look at McCarthy's numbers this past week. They're just absolutely staggering. So I can't back Colorado. I can't do it. But I really think that Arizona is a sound team. So that means if I had to just close my eyes and blind guess or predict this series, Joe, it would be that Arizona wins 2 out of 3. But which 2? I don't know. Is it tonight? Maybe not. Is it tomorrow? I mean, Hughes may be one of Colorado's best options. I mean, shockingly enough, Sugano on Colorado, I believe he has 12 wins or something like that this season, which is insane. I never would have thought that. Yeah, so to me, it's probably a stay away if anything, because I do think Arizona is going to win this series 2 out of 3. And if I think that, I'm not going to try and guess what's going to happen.
And listen, I think having Soroka back is just another arm that Arizona. Brandon Pfaadt has been great since he got back into the rotation there. Merrill Kelly was awful to start the year, but of course over the last month I thought he pitched phenomenal against the Dodgers in that game that went to extra innings there. So all of a sudden that pitching staff for Arizona, if the bullpen can hold up here, I like them better than I like the Padres. I like the offense better, believe it or not.
Me too.
Me too.
Yeah, no, I think so.
think-
Look, I think San Diego put themselves, Joe, in a position to fight to the end, and so by
Yes.
getting the pitchers that they got, and it was Mize, and who was the other one that they got? I keep forgetting who the Padres ended up getting two pitchers.
Robbie Ray, who also got lit up. Yeah.
And Robbie Ray. Yeah, so I think what that did, Joe, is give San Diego a fighting chance to the end. I think without those guys, they don't. So it's not like a 50-50 toss-up. I'm with you. I think Arizona's better than San Diego. But in the end, Joe, would you be shocked if the Padres made it and Arizona didn't? You probably would not. The bigger question, I think, is it possible that the Padres get in, the Diamondbacks get in, and the Phillies do not?
Oof.
I think that is more of the possibility there if the Phillies don't get their act together here pretty quickly.
Yeah, and it's got to start. I think it's pretty safe to say they got to handle business here against the Cardinals tonight. Would be fantastic of them. But I like the position Arizona finds themselves in. I think they got a pretty good shot at making a run. And the schedule, by the way, down the stretch for Arizona is also not as daunting here. Obviously, they have the Rockies. They do have the Braves, Red Sox, Reds, Cubs, and Giants. So kind of 50-50 there. But I think they got to handle business against the Rockies. And then, boy, it would be a good litmus test, right? Because they got to head to Truist to take on the Braves this weekend. I think that's a pretty good test here. We're going to figure out whether or not they are for real. They showed it against the Dodgers, but
right.
Can they do it against Atlanta? That would, on the road as opposed to being home. I think that's going to be interesting. Also, you mentioned it. Brewers here now for the Padres tonight. Guardians this weekend. And then they have the Mets, Twins, and Pirates in 3 consecutive back-to-back. So can they still win enough? Because they also have the Rays, I think, at the last weekend in August here. That, too, is going to be interesting. But I think this Brewers series that starts tonight, I think this is big. I think it's really big for them here, Craig. And Logan Henderson is a guy that, as a number 2 behind Misery, I think that's a tough 1-2 punch here for anybody. And I just can't wrap my head around this offense to trust them enough to be able to go up against a Miz or a Logan Henderson in a short series and think they got enough firepower to get it done. But that's why they play the games. We'll have more on it as Game Time Decisions continues on the grid. All right, welcome back in. Game Time Decisions here on the Sports Grid Network, and we've got some decisions to make here. Some of these games coming up in Major League Baseball just after the top of the hour. A couple of good matchups here, including, granted, one game we haven't talked about. And, you know, I love this is ironic, right? Because you got Trevor Rogers going for the O's here tonight, taking on the Twins, who are trying to stay afloat. Although this schedule coming up for the Twins is just brutal. And you mentioned the Field of Dreams game. Then they got the Cubs. And I think they got they got a lot of not easy games coming up. But Kremer is going for Minnesota. Wasn't he just an Orioles? Did I miss it? Wasn't he just on the Orioles here? Ironic, huh?
So Dean Kramer, who has been the anchor in the World Baseball Classic of Team Israel the last two go-arounds, know him very well. He was actually a pretty good pitcher for the Orioles. Pretty good. What does that mean? He's not a number one, Joe, and he's not a number two. And, you know, sometimes he's like a number three in the rotation, but generally he's a back end of the rotation guy. And when he was pitching for the Orioles a couple of weeks ago, it was a really bizarre scene that happened on the mound. I don't know if you remember that. We may have discussed it. I'm not sure. Where Kramer went to throw the ball to first base, and it looked like Pete Alonso wasn't ready for the ball or something. It was very strange. And Kramer kind of motioned over to him that if he had a hard time seeing or not. After the game, they discussed it and said it was much ado about nothing. And it was just literally Kramer asking Pete Alonso if he could see the ball. I don't know. It felt to me like the Orioles got rid of him right after that. Yes. I don't know if you felt that way. It feels to me like they got rid of him. Maybe there was something going on there in the clubhouse. I mean, I've always known him to be a very pleasant guy. It was a really weird and strange situation. And the Orioles are not like so loaded with pitchers, Joe, that they can just afford to just dump somebody. Truth be told, Kramer had not had a great year, had not been pitching very well, pitched very well for Team Israel, by the way, in the World Baseball Classic, and has pitched well previously. So maybe his career gets started with the Twins, but this is your typical like fantasy football revenge game. You would think that if you were going to blind bet somebody tonight, it would be him. It would be taking him against his former team in Baltimore, because you would think that he'd have a little extra something for them tonight. But, you know, certainly on the other side, Rodgers has pitched well. So my lean toward this game would probably be the under. I would think that both pitchers have a good outing tonight through 5-6 innings. And I do think Kramer will be a little bit extra motivated tonight too.
Well, if you think that, then you also got to think, so will Pete Alonso, right? Who's actually been getting hotter now. I think he had a couple more home runs yesterday in that game. And I know he had just a rough start to the season. I think he had said after the game that he's really starting to get much more comfortable in his new digs and his surroundings. So to your point, maybe there was some sort of issue maybe going on there in the locker room. But Pete Alonso to hit a home run here tonight off for his former
maybe so
wonderful buddy. What do you think here? We go that route.
They're saying there was nothing to it. They're saying that there was nothing and everything was cool, but they traded Kramer right after. So I don't know. The one thing that I will say, Joe, about Pete Alonso is that, look, Pete Alonso is not going to give any money back. He made a lot of money signing with the Orioles, okay?
Right.
A crap load of money. But doesn't it feel to me like that's the one move of all the moves this offseason that if you could go back and change it, and you ask Pete Alonso privately, hey, like, if you could go back and just take a little bit less money to stay, and the Mets stink, I get it, but to stay with the Mets and not be, I don't know, it seems so weird to me still seeing him play with the Orioles. And look, he's in a better record situation-wise, but Pete Alonso would not have made the Mets win 80 games this year, Joe. He would not, okay? He's one guy. There's 26 guys on a roster. But I kind of feel like if he was back on the Mets, like things would have been better. And it feels a little miscast to me in Baltimore. I don't. The whole signing was weird at the time. I understood it, and then as you said, he got off to that tough start. Then he got really, really hot. He started playing great baseball, so it made sense to me. And in the end, his numbers are going to look really good at the end of the season. But I don't know, if I'm the Mets, maybe just call the Orioles and be like, look, we screwed up. How can we make this right? Give us Pete back. What's the money look like? Let's put him back in New York. I know a lot of Mets fans, Joe, by the way, were really, really like destroyed when that happened. They like quit the Mets when they let Pete Alonso go.
I don't think he wanted to leave. I think he knew he was going to get somebody was going to pay him, and it just happened to be the Orioles. But I mean, I think had the Mets come up with anything even close, he would have rather have stayed with the Mets than any place else. I mean, listen, he hit 175 in April, but he does have, to your point, he's over 250 now. He's 25 home runs, 75 ribbies on the season. And not having any protection in front of him, behind him. So it's a lot of injuries there. But, I mean, who's been protecting him in this lineup? The Orioles have been horrific outside of him offensively, unless I'm missing something.
No,
I mean,
and listen,
by the way.
No, he hasn't played. But look, the Mets, it worked out. They got Polanco. He's batting 120 with 1 home run. It worked out great for them. How much are they paying Polanco? That honestly, Polanco may have been the worst signing of the offseason. I think when it's all said and done, he's gonna be the worst. I mean, what were they thinking there? First base for a guy who never played first base, a guy who's never gotten a big contract. You're just gonna throw all this money at him. I know he had a home run the other day. I think he had his first. I think he went 0 for 26 Polanco and then got a hit. It was a home run.
That's correct.
But, oof.
I mean,
horrible sign.
You got guys like Gunnar Henderson hitting 213. You know, Holiday's only hitting 240 here. O'Neal is 240. I mean, you go down this list. It's like, well, actually, it's not bad. It's not terrible here, but
in this day and age,
it's just disgusting there, Gunnar Henderson. And my point with Rashman was, I don't know what he was not exactly crushing the ball to begin with this season here. So, he too had his not only the injuries, but he's not. I don't know what kind of hitter they think they're getting in Boston, but he has not lived up to expectations at all outside of that first year. So, but we'll see how it works for him here. A lot more Major League Baseball still to be played. Huge games coming up here tonight. Big series. And I love, by the way, give me Trevor Rogers in the first 5. Just hands down. Give me Baltimore in the first 5. The guy is, and he's got over a 4 ERA, Craig, which is hilarious because you barely score anything off of him ever. So Baltimore in the first 5 with Rogers on the mound. We'll have more for you as Game Time Decisions continues here on the Grid. right, welcome back in Game Time Decisions here as we are coming up on the first game of a 10-game slate here just after the top of the hour. 7:07 is when Toronto and Boston will square it up there at the Rogers Center. And then, of course, Mets and Atlanta at Truist. And then Minnesota, Baltimore, Philly, St. Louis. That'll round out your 7 p.m. Eastern time starts, and a lot of good baseball still to come here this week. We've talked about some of the upcoming series here for some of these teams that are battling. I think this is a big series for your Marlins coming up against Pittsburgh. Craig, what's that? Starts tomorrow there. Do we know what the rotations are yet for these games?
So I will miss you the next couple days here. So I'll be on the pre and post game tomorrow from the Marlins pregame show and post. Tomorrow night is the game of the series for sure. Because assuming that Paul Skeens is like halfway decent, Joe, I don't know anymore. But Paul Skeens and Yuri Perez. I mean, that's a hell of a matchup for tomorrow night. I'm not sure of the rest. I think there's some TBDs. I think for Pittsburgh, I think maybe, is it Ashcraft Wednesday or Carmen Majinski? I think that he is part of this little rotation. And then Jansen Junk pitches for Miami with Phillips after that. So that'll be the 3-game series. And then the interesting part of this, too, is Miami will need a Kyle Stowers replacement. So we'll find out tomorrow who that will be. And also a very rare this time of the season, Tuesday night, Wednesday, I call it morning when you start before 1, showdown here. So I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So a Wednesday night game and then Thursday early game. I don't know if I'm on the air Thursday. I have to look at the schedule with you on Thursday. I'm not positive about that because I know it's tough for me to get from, I don't need to tell you, Joe, to get from there to here. Thursday after a game is not easy to do on I-95. It is not easy. So... yeah, so look, for Miami, they're a game over 500. So if they win 2 out of 3, it's like perfect. But if Pittsburgh loses 2 out of 3, Joe, their percent goes down to like 5% to make the playoffs. So it's not more, it's kind of crazy in August to say that it's more important for Pittsburgh to win the series, but it kind of is. It kind of is. Like, I think Pittsburgh now has to roll off 2 or 3 series wins. I hope they don't do it. But I could see them pushing forward a little bit in this one because this is a team they're chasing for the wild card.
Well, and you mentioned, we documented, I mean, Skeens has not been the Skeens here that we thought we might get over his past 15 starts. He's got over a 5 ERA, which is kind of shocking when you consider it. A little bit of a velocity dip too, Greg. I mean, he was throwing 98.5 miles an hour. Now he's down to about 96, which may not seem like a lot, but when you start dropping 1.5 miles like that, either we're talking a very tired situation here or mechanically or something else is going on because there's no good reason for him to be losing velocity and be as bad as he has been here over the last 15 starts.
I don't get it. Yeah, I don't get it. I don't know what's going on. I'm not a good enough expert at this to be able to tell you. And the other part about this, Joe, specifically as it pertains to Skeens, if you've noticed, no one has the answer on what is going on with Paul Skeens. It's not like you're reading anything or seeing anything on TV of saying, well, this is the reason. No one seems to know the reason. His velo is pretty much still where it has been. So it's got to be something mechanical, and that's why the pressure is on the coaching staff and the front office in Pittsburgh right now, Joe. You can't have Paul Skeens finish the season with an ERA of 5. You got to get this right in the next couple months.
Well, I like him. Listen, I think you got 2. Is Sandy pitching in this series at all? Or because if you got Yuri tomorrow,
I don't think so. Maybe unless they change something up. It doesn't seem like it. No, I don't think so. It seems like it's going to be Phillips and Junk. I think those will be the next 2 after Yuri Perez. But the matchup tomorrow night is one of the best, I think, on television.
That's going to be huge.
Yuri Perez and Skeens, and it's a good one.
I love that. 6:40 Eastern time tomorrow. We'll certainly miss you there, Craig, but I think it's going to be, that's the matchup to watch.
But I'll be with you all next week, Joe. I'll be with you all next week.
I'll be with you next week. Yes, we'll talk Bundesliga and Belarus handball matchups coming up, curling. We've got a little something for everybody. But what is the game tonight you're most interested in seeing here? Because I know you won't. The late games you will not stay up to watch.
No, but I will for the first couple innings to see how Skubal does for sure. Definitely, I'm very curious to see how Skubal performs in LA. It'll be a sold out atmosphere. It should be great theater there. And by the way, it'll also be one of the games of the night. Noah Cameron, Joe, has been the Royals' best pitcher. Good. He's been really good. I think this could end up being a good game.
Yep, and don't sleep on Toronto. I think things are going the wrong way for Boston. In-game live game day straight ahead. Kevin Walsh, Gabe Morency. We'll see you again tomorrow for another edition of Game Time Decisions.